start the recording. श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं नमः श्रीशङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलासमहामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणि. So in the last class, we have covered verse 31. Satkarma paripakate karunanidhi udhrutaha prapya tirataruchayam vishramyanti yatha sukham. So here Swamiji was telling as to who gets the option of being picked up by that Karunanidhi. Karunanidhi means a person of compassion, person full of compassion. Nidhi is a wealth, you can say treasure. So a treasure of Karuna is what, compassion is what we are being looked at, and obviously it is being referred to a Guru. Yeah? So a Guru is the one in that particular example, what we have seen is that the worm that is that is being pulled along with the flow of the river goes from one whirlpool to the other whirlpool and gets caught in that whirlpool and comes out of it after a lot of struggle, only to find that a temporary relief and it goes to the next whirlpool, is an example that is being given to understand the nature of the jiva who goes from one whirlpool to the other whirlpool, even within a particular life period, or you can take that each whirlpool is one lifetime, so to say. So one lifetime, then a death comes and the jiva takes another body, and that means another whirlpool it has gone. And this flow of river is normally linked to flow of avidya, the ignorance that actually creates, manifests this entire universe of the world. That's what we have seen. And verse 32 actually kind of tells you the same thing in terms of in the words of Swamiji himself. Yeah. So we will take up verse 32 now. Yeah. Upadeshamavapyaiva acharya tattvadarshinaha panchakosha vivekena labhante nivrutim param. Upadeshamavapyaiva acharya tattvadarshinaha panchakosha vivekena labhante nivrutim param. So this verse actually we have already read in the last class, but we said we will take up the explanation from this class onwards. Yeah, so I will go through this once again. So here very clearly that Karuna Nidhi is being told as the Guru. How Upadesham. Upadesham is the instructions. Instructions who gives? Obviously, Guru gives the instructions, and the term used here was Acharya. So Acharya Upadesham. Evam means in the same way, the Tattva Darshina, man of self-realization, gives this particular knowledge. How he gives? In this particular text, it is being told that Pancha Kosha Vivekena. The 5 Kosha Viveka is discrimination. We have already seen that before. Viveka Vairagya Samadhamadi Shat Sampatti Mumukshutvam is the fourfold sadhana that Shankaracharya has given in terms of preparing the mind for this particular gaining this particular knowledge. The sadhana is the practice is fourfold as per him. Here that Viveka, what is being given, is being given in terms of Pancha Kosha. That is how the verse is telling. Labhante Nivritim Param. One who gains this particular knowledge through the Guru, what does he gain? He gains Nivritim Param, means supreme peace. Param is supreme, Nivritim is the peace. Yeah, so the supreme peace is there for those people who are gaining this knowledge through the Guru. The knowledge that we talk about is the discrimination of Pancha Koshas. Obviously, the Vijayanaji style of the text is that he goes, nothing he leaves just like that. He goes into details. So we need not worry what these 5 koshas are, what Pancha Kosha, how is it that discrimination is used on these 5 koshas, etc. will be given obviously by the Swamiji in this next few verses. Yeah. So here, when we talk about a jiva who is ready, in the sense, in the last verse we have seen already that a person who is satkarma paripakat, means the one who is already done the satkarma, good actions. Now questions will automatically come as to what these good actions are when we talk about. One, you can take it as I mentioned, it can be the fourfold, one who has gone through the fourfold sadhana chatushtayam of Viveka Vairagya, Samadhamadi Shat Sampatti and Shat Sampatti and Mumukshutvam. Or you can also take that as a person who has done Karma Yoga in terms of the noble actions. Because Satkarma can be karma which is good. Means what? The Karma Yoga, one who has done, means what? One who is doing the prescribed actions. Now, once we talk about prescribed actions, prescribed by what? Prescribed by the Vedas. So Veda has got a lot of portion which actually is purely an action-oriented stuff in terms of different actions one required to take up for you to cleanse the mind and be ready and be prepared for this journey. So we have I think we have seen this many times before as Pancha Mahayajna. Again, the 5-fold thing comes again and again as an important, this one of Pancha Mahayajnas are prescribed actions. For any Grihastha, all these 5-fold actions are very important. Once you take up sannyasa, these actions are no longer applicable to you. In fact, that is one of the things a sannyasi does is to leave these 5-fold actions that are prescribed by the Vedas. So sannyasa actually means one who is whose only aim is the knowledge, jnana. Jnana marga is the sannyasa marga, so to say. Yeah? But people like us who are in the Grihastha ashrama, they said Pancha Mahayajnas are the ones which are required. What are these Pancha Mahayajna? It's called Deva Yajna. Means Deva Yajna is one where a person spends time appreciating the Devas. Means whatever puja, japa, that particular aspects which are there, Sandhya Vandan for those people who are doing. So these all come under the Deva Yajna. Second is called the Pitru Yajna. Pitru Yajna is the people who are your forefathers. Need not necessarily be only your mother and father, but forefathers who made this Janma possible for you to gain this particular knowledge. So Pitru Yajna becomes a very important step for cleansing of the mind, so to say. Third is called Bhuta Yajna. So not only Bhuta doesn't mean only the other human beings, but any jiva which is there outside. Bhuta Yajna becomes a very important step in terms of gaining this state. Yeah? Manushya Yajna is other human beings. How you are treating other human beings becomes a very important aspect. So when you, with no other human being or bhuta, you actually have this negative tendencies, is one of the yajnas that is prescribed here. And Brahma Yajna is the one where we spend time in terms of gaining the scriptural knowledge. So these five actually are being prescribed as part of Karma Yoga for you to cleanse the mind and be ready. So either you can take sannyasa and go into the path of knowledge, or if you are in this grihastha, these five yajnas are prescribed actions for you to be ready for that, and this leads to antakarana suddhi, inner instrument, and suddhi is cleansing. Cleansing of the inner instrument becomes a very important step for you to be ready when the acharya is ready to give the upadesha, the lesson, the instruction, so to say. Yeah? So once the good karma is ripened, it says that compassionate person will automatically come to such a person and to lift you out of the flow of ajnana and put you under the shade of the tree at the banks. Yeah. So very beautifully, taruchaya is the term that is used in the last verse. So under the shade of the tree, this particular person keeps you. Obviously, here the lifting is not physical. Yeah? We are not expecting a guru to come and physically lift you out of anything, anywhere. This is purely a cognitive lift, you can say, or an intellectual lift, so to say. So all changes that we are talking about, although we say that it is Deva Yajna, Pitru Yajna, Bhuta Yajna, etc., all might involve some physical actions. But what we are looking at is the Guru giving that knowledge in terms of a cognitive shift to your mind, the thinking process. How you can come out of this particular aspect in terms of your kartrutva, bhoktrutva, and see the oneness of the universe with the Brahman, and that oneness of the universe includes yourself. Although our normal tendency is to separate myself even from the universe. When I say I am ready, I already see oneness of Ishvara in the universe, we may see oneness, goodness, let us say, in all the human beings. But I still keep myself away from the so many other human beings and other world that we normally come across. That is the unfortunate portion of this duality that is always maintained. So here the lifting process is purely an intellectual lift, and the change is only a cognitive change. No change is required for your physical being and the way you operate in this world. That can remain exactly the same. However, there is a cognitive change in my mind as to who is actually doing all these five yajnas as well. No longer I take the kartrutva bhava for that particular actions that I am doing, so to say. Yeah. So, and how this will come? This will come only with the punya phala of the previous actions. Maybe in this life, maybe in the previous life, really it doesn't matter. But the punyam that is earned becomes a very important portion of gaining the Guru's Guru's acceptance, so to say. Yeah? And the teaching in this particular text will be in the basis of Pancha Kosha Viveka. The 5 koshas that are there means Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. So these 5 will be described very quickly by Vijayaranya Swamiji himself. So we need not go into the details, so to say. Now, why this particular Panchakosha Viveka is being chosen? Actually, each one, we are going through a text called Panchadashi. Means 15 chapters are there in this particular book. We are on the first chapter. So in the first chapter, Panchakosha Viveka is being given as the basis for the same analysis. Now in the next 14 works, you will see that Vijayaranya Swami will be taking up one by one a different aspect in terms of arriving at the same truth, so to say. That means to say that truth is one, but the roots may be different. Whichever is appealing to a particular person, depending upon his background, her background, and how one will reach that particular goal, purely up to us, if we have the patience to go through. If you believe that whatever we have reading after first chapter is good enough for me to go ahead, that is the end of your learning, so to say. Yeah? But that is true whether we take up Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha, any text for that matter, the goal remains exactly the same, and the way we reach seems to be slightly different depending upon the aspects that are focused by the Guru in a particular text. So here Panchakosha Viveka is being given. Broadly, if you see any of this analysis portion of attaining this jnana, why we have so many books if the knowledge is the same, goal is the same, we have to arrive at that. Why do you require? This question might come again and again, so to say. So here we are really looking at as to normally each of these texts have got a different way of approach. Yeah? Broadly divided into 3 categories. One, it is called as Sat Asat Viveka, means discrimination as told by Shankaracharya in the Shankaracharya in the Sadhana Panchakam, for example, is he says anything that comes in front of you, you need to understand what is Sat and what is Asat. Sat is what? That which remains same in all the periods of time. And Asat is the one which actually may appear Sat in one particular period of time, but need not necessarily be the same in the other portions, other aspects, other periods of time, so to say. So Sat Asat Viveka becomes one of the ways of approaching the analysis. Second is more, we see this again and again as to cause and effect. Karya Karana Viveka means if I am born here, then there should be a cause for me, which immediately I will take it up as my parents. Then for the parents, again, a set of parents will come into picture. So if I go again and again, go back, what is that original cause because of which I am present at the current period of time? This question in terms of cause and effect is one of the ways of doing that. And we have gone through that, in fact, in the original lessons, as to that Brahman with Prakriti of the Trigunatmika Prakriti is responsible for this entire creation, so to say. So the cause and effect ultimately leads one to say that Brahman is the only cause, and all the effects that we are seeing is nothing but because of that Brahman. So if this approach a text takes, that is called as Karya Karana Viveka. And unfortunately, this Karya Karana Viveka always has a limitation, because people will always look at as the Karya, the Karya, the effect aspect is ultimately will be seen as an inert substance. Yeah, for example, the entire mountains, rivers, etc., the whole world, universe, if you take into account, I experience the entire world as only inert aspects. Although I come across other human beings, not in terms of their consciousness, but mostly in terms of their intellect, mind, and body, which are again the inert aspects which are there, which I am interacting. Although for some I can be mind, body, intellect, but once I understand that I can be a different one, my interaction will be always with the inert substances, and Karya Karana Viveka seems to have a limitation in terms of identifying a conscious entity which is resulting in the inert substances as the creation. So for them, ultimately one will go into something called a Drik Drishya Viveka, means a seer-seen relation, which automatically brings the consciousness aspect into our relations with the experiences with the world. So once I do this Drishya Viveka, it will go more like there is an object I am seeing, means my eye becomes the seer, object becomes the seen. And immediately I will go back and say that, okay, my eye is the physical eye is the seer, but there must be a indriya, a sense organ in my brain, which actually makes this particular eye see the object in the way it is doing. Yeah. So this can be including substances like when I see a blue sky, I see blue sky, but and this is being taken to the mind by an indriya, and indriya becomes a object by itself. The mind becomes manaha becomes the drik, and indriya becomes the drishya. So this I go back like that. I ultimately end up with Brahman as the conscious entity, as the drik, and this entire creation will become the drishya, so to say. Yeah? So this is how we can broadly divide this so-called analysis. Keep this in mind. Any text you take up, you can analyze as either sat asat or karya karana or drik drishya. Karya karana is the cause and effect. Drik drishya is seer and seen. Yeah? So this type of this one normally is there. What we are going through is sat asat. That is the nature of the text that we are currently going through in terms of our understanding the Pancha Kosha Viveka. So for us in Sanatana Dharma, the Hinduism, what we call, it becomes very, we are very lucky that so many compassionate masters have come who are ready to pick up these worms from the river and put them under the Taruchaya. Yeah? Our own Guruji being one of them. And not only he was there, but he has trained so many others who are equally capable in terms of identifying those people who are ready and taking them up and picking them up and showing them the correct path. Yeah? And it's not only Chinmaya Mission, but there are so many others who have come in Bharat in terms of playing this particular role, so to say. Yeah. So why this particular aspect again and again we say the ignorance is the root cause for all aspects that we go through in terms of samsara, and jiva, out of this ignorance, what will happen is, because I don't know I am a purna, I am the completeness by definition, because I am the consciousness, and as consciousness I am complete. I don't require anything else to make me full, so to say. Purnamadaha, Purnamidaha. That is how the Upanishads describe the Brahman as well as Jiva. Both are Purna, so to say. But I don't feel like that. I don't feel that completeness. And this sense of incompleteness is the root cause for this entire samsara. In the sense, because of ignorance, I feel there is something lacking in me. and that lacking will produce what we call as the desire. And it is the desire which will make us look outside for completing that, so that I will be happy. So this particular thing will be pushed by, and this desire is pushed by vasana, so inclination, so and so, that is always there at the background. But basically, it is this desire which will make me look outside, what I am looking for outside, to make me complete in that particular aspect at least. For example, I feel that I should get a very good car for me to be happy, because there are so many things associated with car. Not only going from one place to the other place, but there are other places. The model which you are buying, the make you are buying, what kind of social recognition you will have outside. The car stops being only a vehicle to take you from point A to point B, but there are many other aspects in the background which will determine as to what you will buy. And then the question comes as to what you can buy, what you can afford to buy. Yeah. Within that, I would like to be on the top range again, because that is how the mind works. Then only I feel that my desire is complete, and I somehow become complete in that sense. Yeah? So this jiva looking for fulfilling the desires is nothing but kind of making oneself complete, which I feel incomplete because of the ignorance, because I don't have the my complete sense of my purnatvam is not known to me. This is how we do that. However, however, effort, how much effort you put across, whatever be the gain that you obtain based on the result that is based on the desire, the result is always limited. How and why? Because our nature of the mind is limited, so to say. So it jumps from one desire to the other desire for me to complete, again feel complete after completion of this. If suppose it doesn't get complete, we just don't leave it. It will be there in the background, continuously nagging you to make yourself complete. Yeah? So this the process is an ongoing thing, and that is what we call it as samsara. So here, next 33 onwards, Swamiji will introduce the process of Shravanam from the Guru. And this Shravanam is based on the form of Panchakosha Viveka. So first he starts with what are the koshas that one, what are the koshas with which one is made of. And he will also then look at as to how to listen techniques one can use in terms of this Panchakosha. He has till what we have spoken, because we will go into Shravanam. Next topic will be Shravanam from verse 33. Okay. 33 verse we will go through. Yeah? Annam prano mano buddhir anandaischeti panchate koshas tairavrita svatma vismrutya samsmritim vrajet. Annam prano mano buddhir anandaischeti panchate koshas tairavrita svatma vismrutya samsmritim vrajet. So here the 5 koshas are being named here. Yeah, not only we are telling, but Swamiji himself is naming this very clearly. Annam prana, so Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha. Annam prano mano buddhir. So Manomaya kosha, this Vijnanamaya kosha is being told as Buddhimaya kosha. Vijnanam, Buddhi, they are one and the same. Another word we have, actually the text itself is used it before, is the dhi. DHI, Dhi, you can take it that way. The Dhi or Vijnanamaya or Buddhimaya, in this particular verse, Buddhimaya, all of them indicate the intellect aspect that we are talking about here. So Vijnanamaya Kosha is Buddhi Kosha. And Anandaischeti Panchate. So it's Anandamaya Kosha, all these 5 make up of Panchate Koshas. Means these 5 are the 5 koshas that we are talking about. The discrimination of these 5 koshas is what will give you the knowledge. That is what Swamiji is telling. So very clearly, Annam, Prana, Mano, Buddhir and Ananda. 5 koshas are named here. Avrita Swatma means what are these 5 koshas actually doing? Avritam, the term Avritam means covering, veiling. You can take it that way. Yeah. So these 5 koshas, they are actually veiling. What are they veiling? Swa-atma. Swatma, Swa-atma, the self, what is actually enjoying this world as Jiva, that particular Swa-atma is being covered by these 5 koshas. Yeah? And Visprutya, becoming forgetful, Samsmritam Rajet. Vismritya Samsmrityam. Samsmrityam is the term which is referring to transmigration. So we call it as birth and rebirth cycle is transmigration, is Samsmritya. And Rajet, one attains, even this is we attain it through our ignorance. This cycle of birth and rebirth is what we attain because of this particular avritaha, the covering of these 5 koshas of the self. So due to ignorance of the self that is covered by these 5 sheaths, Jiva attains transmigration in this samsara. This is what he is telling, and those 5 sheaths are clearly named as Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Buddhimaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. Very important aspect is being told here in terms of this, why transmigration is there for a Jiva. So normally we take it as, avidya has got the 2 powers of veiling and projection. And because of this veiling, my true nature is gone, etc. Now here, the koshas are being brought into the picture in order for us to understand what this veiling actually is doing for a particular jiva. Yeah? When a person is telling that I have got avidya, actually that avidya is happening because of these 5 koshas. Koshas then become very important aspects in terms of our experience the world, and because of this experience I am having, the true nature of my Swa-atma, myself, or the nature of the self is being hidden. Means what? It is not really hidden. It is there for everybody to see, but I feel that particular self is these 5 koshas. So that's why it says that covered ignorance actually functions. Means what? When we talk about avidya, now is being split into 5 different layers of avidya. So the Annamaya Kosha, the body, for example, itself becomes a Swa-atma for me as an experience. I need to break that to understand my true nature of the Atman and recognize this Annamaya Kosha as only a manifestation or a mithya. That is what is being told here. It is like this, when we see a cloud in the daytime, suppose in the night time, black clouds come across in the sky, for example. One doesn't even know unless there is a lightning, thunder, rain, etc. If suppose the clouds are just going through in a new moon day, you don't even know that clouds exist, so to say. But in the daytime, for example, thick black clouds are there everywhere. our normal tendency is to understand these clouds as they are covering the sun. But really speaking, a cloud can never cover the sun in that sense, because the presence of the cloud, the experience of the cloud is happening only because of the sun behind. How do we know? Because I experience that in the night time. Maybe the clouds are going exactly same experience, but I don't experience the clouds at all. I don't see them. But in the daytime, why I'm able to see the clouds and experience and appreciate that black clouds are there is because they the clouds are covering the sun. That is my well.
Shankar, you might
The
have
sun
to
can
repeat
never
that.
be covered by cloud.
आपका कंप्यूटर जो है ये बार बार फ्रीज हो रहा है, तो we missed some last minute or so.
Yeah, I realize that. Can you hear now?
Yes.
Yeah, recording is still going on. Okay. So I don't know, where did I say, where did you miss me? Is it because the sun and the example of the cloud?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I did not then go any further much beyond, so it's okay. All right. So here, what I was telling is, in the daytime, we are able to appreciate the clouds only because of the sun, which is in the background. We may think that clouds are covering the sun, but really speaking, clouds can never cover the sun in that sense, because only because of the sun, I am able to appreciate the cloud to start with. Similarly, in this particular case, each of these kosha, each of this sheath of Annamaya, Pranamaya will appear as if they are covering my true nature. Swa-atma, they are covering. But that particular consciousness behind, none of these experiences are also possible. Similar to a sun and a cloud example, the very fact that the kosha, the inert kosha, appears sentient is only because of the sentiency, which is part and parcel of that consciousness, Satchidananda, aspect of Swa-atma, behind these koshas, continuously being present and continuously enlivening all these 5 koshas. Yeah? So here, very clearly is telling that the ignorance of the self that is covered by 5 sheaths. Yeah, and that is the reason why this transmigration happens. But the fact that these are being covered by 5 sheaths is an indicative that it is possible for us to overcome this ignorance with the knowledge. And this is the knowledge which the text is telling only a guru can provide, because of the nature of that ignorance, the complexity of that ignorance, where the Swa-atma is not directly visible, directly available. Sun, for example, between the clouds, if there is a small gap, one small sunlight will sometimes come through. You are able to appreciate that with your eyes. Whereas this consciousness like that, it is actually not something which you can experience with your 5 senses. It is beyond the senses in terms of your experience. Can it be done with mind? No, it cannot be done with mind as well. We can always come back in terms of understanding the nature using your mind, intellect, etc. But the only way it is possible for us to establish is through the Shabda Praman, as we call, or the experience of the realized masters who have put across that particular this. Then is it beyond your scope as well? No, you can also attain the same thing as the masters have done, but obviously you require to go through a similar process, either in this life or the other lives, but you require to go through the similar process is what we are being told or talked about. Another, my favorite example is that movies. Again, going back to the movies, if you see, the white screen is always there. Without the white screen, actually, none of the movie is possible for us to see. Yeah, whether you see on the TV or whether you go to the theater and see, the screen becomes a very important medium for the manifestation of the movie to be played. None of us are aware or we see the presence of the screen behind. We are totally absorbed with the movie running in front of our eyes because more demanding than the substratum behind for this movie to play around. So but is the movie possible without the screen? No, it's not possible. So really speaking, the movie is not at all veiling the screen, veiling the particular screen behind. It is not doing it. In fact, it is nothing but only a play of colors in that very screen. But we tend to completely ignore the screen and get carried away by the colors associated with the movie and the parts in front. And they can be jivas who are running around, or they can be mountains and rivers or the inert world that we talk about. Each one of them, whatever is this one, each one of them have got the capacity to veil the screen from your perception, so to say. But all that is required is for us to cognitively recognize the screen behind and say that this movie is possible only because of the screen behind, and movie is temporary, whereas the screen is a permanent feature behind. Right? So this sheath word, Pancha Kosha, Kosha is the sheath, yeah, comes again and again. Again, why this word sheath is used is, I think it is, again goes back to the times when people used to have swords, yeah, for or knife for your fighting and other stuff, yeah, people used to do. Every knife or the sword used to have one covering in the similar shape into which this particular knife is kept. Yeah, even now we see on the movies, etc., a sheath is always there for the knife, and the sheath actually follows the same or similar size and shape of the knife. So when we see the knife inside the sheath with only a handle coming out, we exactly know mostly what will be the shape and size of the knife that is hidden inside. Again, the sheath itself looks like the knife in terms of their shape and size. However, we always know the knife can never be part of the sheath. Sheath and knife always comes out of sheath, means what? It remains very close, looks exactly like it, but really speaking, they are never the same. They are always separate in that sense. Similarly, the Annamaya Kosha, when we talk about Koshas, all these 5 Koshas are like that, wherein the knife called the consciousness fits in exactly into each of these 5 Koshas, but never really together with it. They may be together in the sense of closeness, but they are never one. The sheath can be completely separated out from the knife. Similarly, these koshas can be intellectually separated from the consciousness in trying to understand the true nature of that consciousness. The sharpness, the width, the strength of the knife is what which is hidden once it is inside the sheath, so to say. Similarly, the consciousness which is having the aspects of Sat Chit Ananda is always separate from the sheaths, but temporarily it is located within these sheaths. That is why we refer to these 5 layers as the koshas. Koshas are the sheath that we talk about. Okay. And when we talk about the sheaths, I think we have read this before, that Akasha, Vayuhu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi means the space, the air, the 5 elements are the ones which individually create the 5 sheaths that we talked about. Sorry, I think this is breaking from time to time. Okay, so here the Agni is the one which is linked to the Manomaya Kosha, water is linked to Pranamaya Kosha, and earth is linked to the Annamaya Kosha. Earth is Annamaya Kosha, and others we have seen already. So these modifications of these Tanmatras are the ones which are giving in English the same koshas. We can Anandamaya Kosha is referred to as bliss sheath. Yeah. And
Shankarji, we missed those 5. Agni is related to what? We missed that.
Okay. So Akasha is linked to the first one, which is Anandamaya Kosha. The Vayu, the air element, is linked to Vijnanamaya Kosha. The Agni, the fire, is linked to Manomaya Kosha, the mind. The Jala or Apaha, the water element, is linked to Pranamaya Kosha. And Prithvi, the earth, is linked to Annamaya Kosha. So this is the same sequence of your Tanmatras, how they came one after the other. Similarly, these koshas have come in a sense of one after the other. The English names for these sheaths, you can take it as the Anandamaya Kosha is the bliss sheath, BLISS, bliss sheath. The intellect or Buddhimaya Kosha is the intellect sheath. Manomaya Kosha is mind or mental sheath. And Pranamaya Kosha is normally referred to as vitality. The vital kosha, vital sheath or vitality. And Annamaya Kosha is pure Annam, is food, so food sheath. So English wise, if you are comfortable, you can use these terms as well. Yeah. So they apparently cover the self within. As I mentioned, no sheath can actually cover, so to say, any of the consciousness behind, but apparently it appears that it covers, temporarily at least. And as long as this covering is there, intellectually, you are part of the samsara. It pushes you into samsara because you see the sheaths or the koshas as the swa-atma, that is myself. Once you stop seeing that, that is the only time when you can see the koshantara sthita. In Lalita Sahasranamam, actually, the mother is one of the names that is given is koshantara sthita. Means she is the one who sits beyond the 5 koshas, so to say. Yeah? So you hear these terms even in other places as koshantara. Means the Brahman or Atman is beyond these 5 koshas. So how this sheath is, how this sheath has come, this question will come again and again. If my true nature is consciousness, how I am able to see myself as this inert body or inert mind or inert intellect, inert prana, whatever we talk about. One of the examples which Shankaracharya gives is, this is very much similar to a cocoon, the caterpillar which is there. It binds itself into a cocoon and it comes out as a butterfly later on, but after a struggle. But it is similarly, the individual jiva is somehow putting itself into a cocoon like a caterpillar is doing. And you are inside, and only with the effort you come out, and you come out not as a caterpillar, but you come out as a beautiful butterfly. Yeah. So there's another example again. All these are there already. Shankaracharya's time onwards is going on. These examples which I am talking about. Yeah. So now each of these sheets will be described by Swamiji here. So he doesn't leave only with this. He now goes into the details of the 5 koshas. Yeah. We will read verse 34. Yeah. Let us see how far we will go here, but we will read this. Yeah. Any questions till what I spoke?
Hari Om Shankarji, I have a problem, a little bit confusion about Drig, Drishya, Vivek. So Drig is the seer and Drishya is the seen.
Correct.
Okay, and so the physical eyes are the ones we see and mind is the one which processes it as a seer? Or am I got it mixed the other way?
Okay, what we at our experiential state, although Shankaracharya has got a slight different difference, he places actually the Indriyas as the first seen and outside objects as the seer. But it is difficult for us to grasp that. So I will put as the normal difference that outside objects are the seen. And where do I see? My physical golakas, the physical eyes becomes the seer for these objects outside. Yeah. But my physical eyes themselves become a scene for the indriyas in my mind. Individually, my indriya of the form and color, the indriya becomes a seer, and my physical eye becomes a scene. How do I know? Because in my indriyas, I will then say, okay, I am not able to see, this particular eye doesn't seem to be working well. Then what I do, I go to an ophthalmologist and bring a glass. Why did I do? Because my indriyas are not able to see the objects like they used to before. So I am, in that way, my physical eye becomes a scene for my indriyas which are inside. And indriyas themselves become a scene and my mind becomes the seer. And then we say, okay, the mind itself becomes a scene for my intellect, my vijnanamaya, my intellect, mind itself becomes a scene. How do I know? Because I am seeing a blue sky, I am seeing a mirage water, no difference in my experience. My eyes are 6x6 vision, 20x20 vision, so I have no problem in seeing. But still, I continue to see water where there is no water. So, but my mind will, my intellect will tell me that this is only an experience, which is pseudo experience. This is not true. You need not run after this mirage water. You will never find that water. So for that, mind becomes a scene, intellect becomes the seer. And once I go into like that, then intellect itself becomes a scene, and my causal consciousness becomes a seer. How do I know? Because in deep sleep, I am present, but my intellect is not present. So that way I see that I am the one actually who is experiencing this intellect, operating this intellect. Intellect becomes a scene, the consciousness becomes the seer. Then I say that even this I consciousness which I am talking about has got a scene wherein the universal consciousness then becomes the seer. So that is how you go into Drishya Viveka till you drop everything else and only seer that is there in terms of analysis we do is that ultimate Brahman. The Advaita Brahman becomes the ultimate seer, everything else becomes the seen. Yeah? So this is what we refer to as Drishya Viveka.
Thanks, Shankarji. Now it explains as we go the sheaths, then each one of that changes as a seer or a scene.
Correct, correct. That is how the Drishya Viveka, and there's a beautiful text by Shankaracharya named similarly, Drishya Viveka. I'm sure you have gone through that, but maybe we can review that once again.
We are doing, I think, similar thing in Vivek Chudamani, like ending the superimposition.
Correct.
It is something like that because lots of things are connecting here and there. So we are going to the same, you know.
I agree with
same
you.
line.
In fact, Vivek Chudamani is one text which will cover everything.
Yeah.
The Vivek Chudamani is the one text which is so wonderfully done, and each and every aspect are analyzed so much in that. Whether it is called Adhyasa, there will be 30 different verses there. About Maya, there will be some 10-15 verses. Mithya, there will be so many. So yeah, it's a very, very
example,
wonderful
the example of knife you gave was given the same, just a couple of lessons before. You know, it's good.
Absolutely correct.
It makes things to understand a little bit better. Thank you.
Yeah, well, but always remember the examples have got certain limitation. We cannot get carried away by that and apply everything, because ultimately examples are coming from Dvaita, whereas the reality truth we call is Advaita. There is no second thing at all, but all our examples, whether we take it as clouds and sun, or whether we take it as mirage water, any of them, cocoon and caterpillar, all of them are Dvaita. Because the students, as students, our mind is working in this duality always. So
yeah, mind is working in duality. More than that, because we have limitedness. We are caught in the limitedness. You know, once that limitedness is done, I think we'll understand.
In fact, Vivek Chudamani also gives the examples of this cloud, and he says that mind is something like a cloud which is responsible for blocking, which is also responsible for giving you the vision of the sun or vision of the knowledge. Mind works both ways, but mostly it works in the other way around for us. Unless we train the mind to keep itself very quiet, that is the time when you actually kind of the knowledge is revealed by itself. That is where Guru comes in.
Thank you.
That's where it comes. Mind can be your enemy as well as your friend. Depends how you choose it.
Absolutely. It is like a knife, you know, in the hands of a surgeon, it is a lifesaver. In the hands of a murderer, it is a life taker. So absolutely, you're right there.
Yeah. We are talking Gita now.
Correct.
At least we can bring everything together a little bit now.
Awesome. So I think time is over. So I will stop here. We will not take up 34. We will start with 34 in the next class. Then. Yeah. So I will stop the class, and then any questions, any further questions are there, we can take it up as well. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Any further questions from anybody? If not, I think we can we can stop the class now. I'll stop the recording.